Hello friends, this video is your crash course on market research. What it is, how it works, and how to actually use it to make smarter business decisions. If you are launching a product, testing a message, or trying to figure out what your customer really wants, this is all knowledge you need to know about market research.
The number one thing that has made us successful by far is obsessive compulsive focus on the customer as opposed to obsession over the competitor.
Most business failures don't come from bad ideas, they come from bad assumptions. Assumptions about who your customer really is, what they actually want, and how they make decisions. That's where market research comes in. In this video, I'll break down the essentials of market research. Today we'll cover why customer understanding or market orientation is your business's superpower. Then we'll talk about the difference between qualitative and quantitative research, when to use each and why. And finally, we'll move to crucial discussion on research architecture, from setting the objectives to choosing sample and writing specific questions. I'm Sergey Gorenko, market researcher with over 15 years of experience in big research agencies. The whole my research and strategy journey, I help businesses stop guessing and start making decisions that work in the real world. It's probably going to be quite a long video, but by the end of this video, you won't just know what market research is, you will know how to use it to make smarter business moves. So let's dive in. Let's start from the key component, market orientation. A market-oriented company puts the customer at the center of every decision. Not the product, not internal politics, not gut feelings, but real evolving customer needs. In business and marketing, we call this market orientation. You might have heard different names for this, like customer-centric, customer-first, customer-led, but it's all the same core idea. Business only works when it solves something real for someone real. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Most teams forget this and move from strategy right to the execution. Once you are deep in product roadmaps, deadlines, or sales targets, it's incredibly easy to start thinking that features matter more than feelings. That your product is simply a center of the universe. But the hard truth, the market doesn't care how clever your backend is or how beautifully your interface is coded. If it's not solving the real human problem, it's just a noise. Listen to your customers sounds obvious, but here's what actually happens. The bigger the company, the more likely leadership is insulated from reality. The founder stops taking customer calls, the CMO hasn't spoken to an actual user in 6 months, and slowly, silently, the company starts to drift. If your support rep understands the customer better than your CEO, you're in trouble. And it happens all the time. Being customer focused isn't about buzzwords. It's about staying grounded, about asking who is this for, what's their actual pain, why would they choose this over anything else. And in this exact point, research enters the picture to close the gap between what you think customers want and what they actually want. It's like a band playing the tightest set of their lives but not realizing the audience left 10 minutes ago. They're focused on their gear, the lighting, the set list, and completely forgot to check if anyone's vibing with the music. Another example of not listening to their customers is Kodak. They actually invented the digital camera, but they stayed obsessed with the film because that was their business model, their operation, their legacy products, while customers were already moving towards digital photography. They weren't listening, and by the time they looked up, it was too late. Research helps us truly understand the consumers, and that's where real innovation and strategy begin. Netflix used behavioral data and user interviews to understand what keeps people watching and canceling. Airbnb talks to real hosts and travelers to shape their user experience, trust policies, and customer journey. Research isn't just for academic or nerds, it's for anyone building something great for other humans. One more point which is absolutely critical. Your opinion as a marketer doesn't matter. You might have strong instincts about the ad, the price point, or the packaging. Probably you've even worked in the category for a decade. but instincts can lie. And when you use your personal taste to guide business decisions, you're flying blind. Marketers aren't customers, creators aren't the audience, and that is the perfect starting point, the rule number one for every marketer. It is a hard message to deliver, especially to senior execs who see themselves as marketing ninjas and gurus. They think they just know what customer wants, but they don't. And honestly, that's the most powerful place to begin, by admitting that you don't know. So let's dig into how to actually do market research right. Let's clear up one of the biggest fundamentals in market research. There are two core approaches, qualitative and quantitative. And if you want to do research that actually drives smart decisions, you need to know when to use which. They are not interchangeable. They are not just two ways to ask people stuff. They serve completely different purposes. Qualitative techniques are all about why people think they feel and the way they do. Well, it's deep, human, and often messy, and that's the point. It is about sitting down literally or virtually with the real people and listening. You're not chasing stats here, you're uncovering why. Why someone buys one brand over another, why they hate this ad, why that new product idea just doesn't land. We're talking here about focus group, about in-depth interviews, mobile diaries, online communities, field observation, the kind of thing that capture emotions, beliefs, and everyday struggles. It's especially useful when you're just getting started, when you don't even know what to ask yet. You're just exploring, not validating. For example, let's say you're developing a fitness app. You chat with 10 potential users and realize something unexpected. They don't want advice from shredded Miss Olympia style influencer with 2% body fat. They want support from people like them, relatable, honest, maybe just a little bit ahead in their fitness journey. This is the kind of insight which can completely reshape your messaging and brand voice. On the contrary, quantitative research is structured, it is scalable, it's about numbers, proven patterns, and robust samples. Quant techniques are surveys, polls, online tracking, panel segmentation studies, conjoins, brand trackers, Q&As, A/B tests, and many, many more. You've got a hypothesis, now you want to test it on a bigger crowd. Representative sample in order to have reliable and proven data for your next marketing steps. Quantitative research is based on close-ended questions mainly. Open-ended questions are possible, but they are not common in bigger quant surveys. Using our fitness app example, just imagine running a survey with the sample 1,000 people. You learn that 72% would pay for a premium version if it includes meal planning tailored to their goals. That the real data that you can take to your product team or your investors for the next marketing steps. So which approach, qual or quant, should you use? Use qual when you're exploring, when you're trying to understand. Use it in the beginning and then use quant when you're measuring, when you're testing assumptions at scale. And honestly, the best marketer, they always use both. Start with qual to learn the language, the hidden needs, the emotions, then always go to quant to validate your ideas with the confidence. It is called the mixed method approach, and it is what smart brands do when they don't want to guess. When people think about qualitative research, the first thing that usually comes to mind is focus groups. And it makes sense. This method has been around for decades and still works brilliant. The idea is simple. Just gather 6 to 8 people from your target segment, put them in a room with a skilled moderator, and have a guided conversation. Today, focus groups are also conducted online. You will usually recruit about 10 people in case a few drop out. The whole session lasts around 90 minutes, and the goal isn't to test to prove anything statistical. It is just to explore opinions, feelings, motivations, and behaviors. Let's say you're testing a new product idea. You bring in rough concept or description and just see how people respond. Moderator has an open-ended but guided agenda. It is usually 10-15 things you as a client want to discuss with the group. What confuses them, what excites them, what the questions come up. You might be surprised how much valuable feedback comes just from watching people talk freely. Meanwhile, the marketing team is sitting behind the one-way mirror, looking at their target audience, listening closely, and maybe with the creative team and the agency partners. And sure, the session is always recorded, so you can revisit later for exact quotes or tone. What makes this type of research so powerful is that it gives you a direct line into how people really think and talk. You're not measuring anything yet, you're just exploring. You will often walk away with a new language, fresh insights, and patterns you didn't expect. It is especially useful when you want to understand why people act the way they do or how they relate to your brand or category on an emotional level. The key advantages of qualitative methods are speed and cost. A lot of insights are clear after seeing 2 full focus groups. It is only a couple days. But sure, it is better to be patient than see all planned 6 or 10 focus groups. With qualitative methods, you're gonna learn what is important. You don't need polished visuals or final concepts. In fact, it is often better to test raw ideas before investing in final execution. Focus groups are also great after you've done a big quantitative segmentation study. You've got the data, you've got the numbers, the cluster sizes, but you're missing the colors. Who are these segments? Who are these people? What are their pains, triggers, attitudes? That's where qualitative really shines. It helps you bring segments to life and sharpen your messaging or unique selling proposition for each observed group. Another common use is testing different positioning statements. You can bring 2 or 3 directions and see how people respond. Sometimes you'll see very quickly that an idea just doesn't land. I've seen plenty of times focus groups used not just for insight, but also as a way to push back internally, to show high management that customers aren't connecting with the specific concept or idea, or that the value proposition isn't getting through. In other words, focus group can be a powerful political tool also. But as with any tool, there are limits. Focus groups are small. They are not representative at all. You can make sweeping decisions based on 8 people in the room. Even if the most of them say they love your idea, it's not enough to claim market validation. You also need to be careful with mixing too many different segments into one group. You will get confusing feedback and diluted insights. It is usually better to keep your groups focused for example, one session for loyal customers, another one for customer using competitor brand, or split by online and offline behaviors. Another potential issue is the moderator. A poor moderator can ruin the whole session, but a great one can uncover very deep insight that can transform your strategy. That is why I always recommend that marketers get involved in writing the discussion guide, and whenever possible you can even sit on the sessions. In some cases, if you're confident and careful, you might even run the session yourself. It is better than using someone who doesn't understand your product or your audience at all. Still, a skilled, well-briefed moderator from agency with a name, with a good reputation is usually your best bet. Of course, focus groups aren't the only qualitative method. There are in-depth interviews, observational studies, online communities, the diary studies. Honestly, each one deserves its own deep dive video. But for now, the big takeaway is this. Qualitative methods are inductive. They are exploratory, they are not statistically representative, and that is okay. Their job isn't to measure, it is just to reveal. And when you want to test those ideas at scale using representative sample, that's where quantitative research steps in. When you need to test an idea, back it up with the solid numbers or compare results across different groups, it is time to bring in quantitative research. This is the tool set for measuring at scale, whether you're tracking performance, validating hypotheses, or benchmarking your product against the market. Quant is structured, it is focused and built on numbers. Most of the time we're talking about online surveys, about polls or experiments like A/B testing. Usage analytics or long-term brand tracker also fall under this umbrella. What connects all of them is the goal to quantify opinions and behaviors in the way that can be generalized to a larger population. Today, almost all quant research is run through online consumer panels. Millions of people around the world have opted in to take service, and with the right panel provider or research agency, you can reach exactly the audience you need. Let's say you targeted is women aged 25-35 who buy a specific product category at least once a week. With a clear brief, you can get a highly targeted sample that fits your needs and start collecting data very quickly. And importantly, it is all device agnostic. People can complete service from their phones, tablets, laptops, and you need to make sure that your research partner supports this. If your survey isn't mobile friendly, you risk losing half of your audience or skewing the results. So always check this question. Once the fieldwork is complete, you'll get your results in a clean report or dashboard, often just a few days when we are talking about top lines or automated report. There are even do-it-yourself tools now where you can launch your own survey through a subscription platform without involving an agency. Isn't it amazing? I still remember when I started my research career 15 years ago, we were doing paper questionnaire crazy long and waiting weeks for the results. It is hard to believe how fast and seamless it has become today. The data is sharper, the tools are smarter, and the insight come back much faster. Quant is no longer slow. It is agile, it is responsive and essential for decision making at speed. To understand better how to create a solid questionnaire that is structured and includes key things, we'll be using brand health tracking questionnaire as an example. There are many types of quantitative research studies, segmentations, conjoints, backtests, big U&A studies, but one of the most widely used are the brand health trackers, the ongoing brand health evaluation surveys. We usually begin with the demographic block, basic profiling questions like age, gender, income level, and how often someone uses the product category. This information doesn't just sit there, it is powerful for slicing and dicing the data later. Say your total sample looks flat, just look for something uncommon at the key subgroups. What do loyal users think? How do men and women react differently? What about Gen Z versus boomers? Demographic questions always give you inside structure. Next, we move into the attitudinal section. This part captures how people feel, how easy the product is to use, how they rate customer service, or how much they trust the brand. Most of these are measured using something called the Likert scale. It is that familiar strongly agree to strongly disagree format. These questions help us get inside the consumer's head and understand the perceptions, not just action. Then comes the behavioral block, which focuses on what people have actually done, not what they say they might do. This is where we ask about brand awareness, about past purchases, preferred choices, satisfaction, likelihood to recommend, and other key funnel metrics. If you heard about NPS or Net Promoter Score, it also lives here. It's all about tracking what is really happening in the market. In most cases, I use modular approach to tracking questionnaire design. We have core or brand essential sections, demographic, attitudes, behaviors. These are non-negotiables. Then you plug in extra depending on your current needs. Want to test a new ad campaign? Just add a comms model. Launching a new product? Drop in the promo section. But your brand essential, these three core blocks, once again, demographic, attitudinal, behavioral, stay consistent to give you trendable, comparable data. When done well, even a short questionnaire can reveal deep insights. The key is discipline. Ask only the questions that matter. A tight, smart survey is often more powerful than a long, bloated one. That's the art of good research, covering what counts without wasting anyone's time and attention. So you got your big question ready. You know exactly what you want to ask your audience, but now comes the classic dilemma. How many people do I actually need in this survey to trust the results? That's an important question because if your sample is too small, your data is just a noise. Too big and you're wasting time and money. So what's the magic number? Well, it depends. There is no one-size-fits-all number. It depends on a few things. How confident you want to be in the results. We call this confidence level. How much error you tolerate. Researchers call this margin of error. How big the group is that you're studying. We can call this population size. And the most people forget this one, how much variability you expect in the responses. We call this statistical variance. That may sound crazy complex, but don't worry, there are great tools that do the math for you. It is easier than it sounds. We can talk about samples for hours, but there is a smarter and much easier solution. Google is your friend here. Don't be paralyzed with sample questions. Type in sample size calculator in Google. You'll see a very simple tool which asks 3 questions. After answering, you'll be 100% clear how many consumers do you need to recruit for representative sample. If you're working with a proper research agency, they usually have penetration or incidence data for common product categories, so they can estimate your relevant audience and easily recommend the right sample size. When done right, I mean with the right sample, quantitative surveys allow you to size market, define customer segments, measure brand performance, track progress over time, and validate your strategy with real numbers. You simply can't do this with the qualitative methods alone. Only quant gives you the scale, the structure, and the statistical weight to build marketing decisions on. Quantitative research comes with several important limitations you need to be aware of. First of all, it's often more expensive than qualitative research and typically takes more time to execute. Another common issue is the risk of working with unrepresentative samples. This can seriously skew your results, so it is critical to partner with reputable research agencies and panel providers. They should maintain high standards in recruitment and sample quality. Questionnaire design can also be a challenge. Poorly crafted questions reduce the value of the entire study. For example, asking people directly what influenced them the most rarely yields reliable insights. Most people simply don't know or can't articulate it. It's also essential to make sure the response options you offer are comprehensive and relevant. That's one of the main reasons why a qualitative stage is often recommended before launching large-scale quantitative studies like usage and attitude. It helps identify the right language and key alternatives to include. One more critical issue and something that continues to frustrate researchers is the length of the questionnaire. Clients often try to add too much into a single study, adding endless list of positioning statements, messages, ideas, ads, but as the questionnaire grows, the quality of the data suffers, especially towards the end. Respondents get tired, lose focus, and the reliability of their answers drops. That's why it is so important to keep your service tight, focused, and manageable, short enough to maintain engagement but long enough to gather what's truly essential. Let's talk about one of the most powerful yet underrated tools in the research world: ethnography. The word might sound too academic, like something a National Geographic team would do while living with a remote tribe for 6 months, and that's not far from true. Ethnography has always been about deeply understanding cultures by observing real life up close. But in business, it can be a total game changer. Ethnography means stepping into your customer's world. It's about watching people in their natural environment, at home, at work, in stores, as they go about their day. There are no surveys, no interviews, no structured focus group, just real people doing what they do the way they do. If you are stuck and can't find breakthrough insights, ethnography might be the answer. Because while people often say one thing, they tend to do something entirely different. When you rely solely on surveys, you are usually getting people's opinions, estimates, or what they think you want to hear. But when you use ethnography, you witness reality, the small struggles, pain points, the improvisation, the unconscious habits. These are the moments they never show up in a questionnaire, yet they are exactly where the magic lies. Take home cleaning, for example. One cleaning brand wanted to create new kitchen spray. Instead of asking people what feature they wanted, the team visited homes and observed how people actually clean. And they noticed something surprisingly consistent. After wiping the surface, most people immediately touch the counter with their hand to check if it feels clean. That small, unspoken ritual became the foundation of their new marketing campaign, centered around the touch test. No multiple choice survey would have ever revealed that insight. You had to be there to see this. Another great example comes from IKEA. They've built their global reputation not just on stylish and simple furniture, but on ethnographic research. Their teams literally go into people's homes in cities like Tokyo, London to understand how people live in small spaces. They look into cupboards, observe daily routines, and analyze how families navigate cramped kitchens. That's why their solution feels so practical. They are designed around the real-world messiness of life. Ethnographic research is slower, it takes time and training dies, but the insights in most cases are priceless. If you want to move beyond assumptions, build real empathy and create solutions that truly fit into your people's lives, there is no substitute for watching those lives unfold. Ethnographic research is the way to go. Not every research project requires fresh surveys, focus groups, or expensive consultants. Sometimes the smartest first step is simply to explore what already exists. That's what we call secondary research. It involves using existing data instead of collecting new information from scratch. This can include industry reports, trends, forecasts, government statistics, or even insights pulled from the social media. One of the most powerful tools at your disposal is the simple Google search. You'd be surprised how many high-quality publicly available research reports you can find as downloadable PDFs from respected sources. Tools like ChatGPT can also help you navigate and summarize what is out there. Don't underestimate the value of what you can uncover this way. There is a lot of gold in those documents. It's also worth digging through your own organization's archives. Many companies have already commissioned research in the past, and even though it may take some time to locate, this internal data can be incredibly valuable. After all, your company has already paid for it, and it might hold exactly what you're looking for, or at least give you a strong starting point. And then there is social media. It is an unconventional source, but an increasingly important one. Scrolling through Instagram comments, reading TikTok replies, comparing engagement metrics between posts, this kind of passive observation can reveal how people are reacting to products, brands, or ideas in the real world. If you're choosing a celebrity for your next campaign, checking number of likes and followers can be just as insightful as a formal brand feed study. Secondary research is almost always worth doing. You will often find summaries and insights from top-tier sources like McKinsey, Kantar, Statista, Ipsos, or even public government datasets. Just add PDF to your Google search prompt. Starting with these existing resources gives you a solid foundation, helping you identify what you already know and, more importantly, what you still need to find out. That's when primary research comes in, just to fill gaps secondary data couldn't cover. The beauty of secondary research is how fast and accessible it is. In most cases, it is free and ready to use, giving you a quick overview without spending a penny. Of course, there are some limitations. The data might not be a perfect match for your specific needs, since it wasn't tailored for your exact question. Some reports may be outdated or based on unclear or unrepresentative samples, so it's important to critically evaluate your sources. But if you stick to credible publishers and reputable research firms, you will usually be on solid ground. So, before launching into expensive, time-consuming research, always check what is already out there. You might find more than enough to get started. Now you've got this far into this video, I believe you really want to figure out what market research is and how to use it in your marketing. I can't possibly walk you through every research method in one video. We didn't touch on things like can join max diffs, A/B market tests, diaries, games, or even ethnography. Yes, that's an actual method too. But that's not the point. I believe that this video covers almost everything you need to know as a marketer about market research. What really matters is that you understand the foundations. You need to be crystal clear on the difference between qualitative and quantitative research methods, and more importantly, know when to use which. On their own, neither is enough. Qual research gives you depth and context, but no hard numbers to base decisions on. You can't confidently plan a campaign or launch a product based solely on a couple of focus groups. On the other hand, quantitative research gives you statistically valid results, but it lacks meaning unless the questions are built on real human insights. You're only as good as the options you give respondents, and if those options miss the mark, your data will too. So let's wrap this up with what your basic research toolkit should look like. You need qualitative methods like focus groups or in-depth interviews to get under the surface and understand people's lives. You need quantitative surveys to validate what you found, to measure those insights at scale and with confidence. You need ethnography, the art of observing real behavior in real context, to see what people actually do, not just what they say. And finally, never ignore secondary research. There is a world of data out there already waiting for you in reports, trend forecasts, even in social media comments. Just use it. It is 100% free. And if you're still not sure where to start, I would recommend start with qualitative. Choose the right method. Maybe it's focus group, maybe it's ethnography, maybe it's online diaries. Go deep, understand the market, listen to your audience, and uncover the real issues. Then move to quant, take what you learned and measure it. Use numbers to validate the patterns you discovered. That's how you build a solid understanding of your target audience. If you're building something you want people to love, this is how you make sure it truly lands. These are your research essentials. If you want to explore more advanced research tools, just drop me a comment or DM, let me know what you'd like me to cover next. I will be happy to help. In the next video, by the way, we are going to dive into one of the most powerful tools in marketing strategy, market segmentation. We'll talk about how to break your audience down into real meaningful groups you can design for, communicate to, and sell it with precision. I'm Sergey Gorenko, market researcher and brand strategy advisor. Thank you so much for watching, and if this was useful, give it a like, share this video with someone who is building something, and I'll see you in the next video.